must give India and its policymakers in the Modi government credit for ensuring that India is holding its independent line in foreign policy. To that extent, there has been a lot of pressure on India from the US for years, not only to wean away from Russia, but to stand up to China, but stand up to China without assurances, without an arrangement, because history has shown us that the US is not very committed to standing for its partners like Japan and Korea if push comes to shove. So if just philosophical support is offered to India, which makes no sense to us, because even amongst the whole Quad countries, Quad has certain flaws. One is Quad is essentially a collection of countries which have ganged up against China in the Indo-Pacific, but they're not citing China as enemy number one. Secondly, Quad is a group of countries where India is the only one, other than Japan, Australia, and the US, that has a physical border with China, which is a tense border. Thirdly, in the case of China, US, and China, India, see, China is a very big trade partner of the US. And China is also a big trade partner of India. And it's a strategy that the Chinese have worked at for decades to make themselves indispensable to the dialogue that may take place around China's rise. So because China is such an important trade partner, getting into a conflict-like scenario with China would upset business and trade ties with China, which neither the US or India wants. But neither do they want China's aggressive expansionist agenda to upset the stability that Asia deserves at a time when Europe's growth is peaking up and India, part of Asia, can lead the way as the new growth area for global investments. Finally, it is the desire not just to keep China hegemonic intentions limited in Asia, that the US is patronizing or trying to come in as a partner of India. But the fact is that the US also is conscious of the fact that China's relationship, increasingly after the Ukraine conflict with Russia, is something that the US has to deal with. So the US is gone in for a strategic overstretch against Russia, against China, and its relationship with India. What India needs to focus on is extracting maximum mileage from the US, because push or shove a little, though India needs American high-end technology in cybersecurity, in intelligence gathering, in modern weapons platforms, in space technology, America needs India to fulfill part of its global agenda, at least in Asia. And to that extent, the Americans are willing to offer us, top-end military technology, which all these years they've dragged their feet on. So now the challenge for Mr. Modi is, what does he finally come back with? Yes, there is the MQ-9 drone deal, but there is also the possibility of a GF414 engine deal for a second generation LCA fighter aircraft. If that happens, that could be a turning point in defense technology partnership. You see, Europe has been traditionally America's bunch of lackeys. But India is a country that has its own standing. Mr. Modi has echoed that sentiment on arrival in the New York airport and said thereafter that India needs a bigger role in world affairs by every yardstick it needs. However, what is very important is to be giving India a role to play. And I give you an idea that, India is one country that enjoys the confidence of Washington and Moscow. Why can't it be the mediator in Ukraine? Because all other countries that are there are seen to have one agenda or the other. Western countries, part of EU, NATO, are all America's hangers. China is Russia's friend and trying to extract maximum mileage out of Ukraine. India is extracting mileage from Russia in terms of oil and other deals. And India is seen by the US also as the go-to country for geostrategic reasons. So why can't India be projected as the key negotiator, which has no personalized agenda with one country or the other? Yes, it trades with them all, but it enjoys credibility. And it has maintained against a lot of pressure a very neutral stance, which is commendable. So there is an area where if Modi can work out a deal with Mr. Biden, that the Americans are happy to support India as negotiator, and Russia might be willing to accept that. And I think there have been indications to that effect by Mr. Putin and Mr. Lavrov, that India is then onto the bigger playing field. To expect the UN to dismantle its age-old arrangements and the UN to come up with a new order which will have India in the Security Council is not going to be likely. I rate the UN as a much overrated debating society. And the countries that are there, because of the baggage of history, Britain and France in particular, don't carry weight globally. China doesn't see anybody else worth talking to than the US. And Russia is now in the talks globally because of what it's done in Ukraine. But here is India, a large country, 1/6 of humanity, playing by the rules globally, except for a UN resolution that hangs around our neck, with Pakistan had got initiated with British support after independence. We've done very well. We are the world's top global peacekeeper. We adhere to all treaties. We're a country that respects the covenant arrangement of faith between two nations. So we are a model nation, and we should be allowed to play a role. And most importantly, between the powerful economic West and the emerging G20 bloc, India is the bridge. If they don't talk to each other, and if they don't share each other's concerns, and the West doesn't invest enough in the G20's South, which is African countries and others, the world will continue to be a waffling space.